let's say college kids comes home, hey mom, I'm thinking about changing my degree. I want to do coding. But you know that mid-level and entry-level coding is going to be currently replaced.
Exactly.
2025,
Yep.
currently replaced.
100%.
Where is it going next? And we know that AI models are designing the Nvidia chips that are used to manage AI. Wait a minute. It's designing its own code, right?
Yes.
So does mom go back to child and say, hey, son, hey, how about like leadership skills?
Oh, and absolutely.
Right? Like, so there's all sorts of like weird paradigms that we're having conversations about is because this is the first time technology is affecting wisdom.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Marketing Blender. I'm Dacia Coffey, and as you can tell, I have a special co-host today. Sina is one of our brilliant fractional chief marketing officers, and I'm actually getting to do two episodes with you. The very first one is what every business in 2025 should know about AI. Now, for those of you who have been subscribers, we did and we've done a couple of AI, but we continue to get so many questions that we finally decided, okay, let's really get in the weeds with the tools, the specifics, and how people should be thinking in an aggressive fashion with AI. And you're the guy, like you're the one on the team that probably, and we all use a lot of it, and you probably have the deepest experience
let's
with
get lost
AI.
in it.
I know.
We're all lost in it right
Which
now.
is so true. But I figure before we get going, all right, Sina, let's talk a little bit about your background because there's a wide perspective and I want people to, I think it'll help people understand why you're so technologically forward in addition to being strategic. So tell us a little bit about your background.
So thanks for having me on. My background has primarily been in content. I've been a film director for 12 years. But with any film, when it comes to business, it's all about ROI.
Yeah.
So marketing, film, content, sales, they all kind of merge. And I've always been leaning towards small businesses. And gradually throughout my career, it just got larger and larger. And the task never really changed. It was about creating good story, creating good film from sports, documentaries, all the way to insurtech. Kind of been at a really fortunate to work with some amazing talent and be involved in a lot of really cool projects. But it's just marketing guy. I don't know. I've been in every field of marketing for some span, and right now it's been really cool to work with Blender and all the different opportunities, especially you learning from you. But yeah, backgrounds all over the place, primarily film and content.
And I think a lot of people would be surprised to hear that film and that content creator background translates so well to strategic marketing leadership. So why do you think that transition's been such a smooth one for you?
I think if we look at the consumer story and how brands are evolving today, it's inevitable that every company in America today is at some point going to be a content company.
Or they need to be thinking like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everywhere from like creating a manual for a bike to creating a full-fledged documentary for a sport. And a really good example of this is like, look at Formula One. Formula One was a European and not American-based sport for so long.
Right.
Netflix spends a couple $1 million on an early draft of a documentary called Drive to Survive.
Yeah.
Explodes the market into America. And it was all just character-driven content. Who are the drivers? Who are the cars? How fast do they go?
Yeah.
And we all love a good story.
Exactly.
So I think from top of funnel marketing to consumer marketing to VSLs, I mean, you name it, ultimately a good story still clicks in humans.
Yeah.
Right? It's all about, and I learned this from sports, it's all about statistical measures of greatness. We love that, especially guys. We're nerds about stats.
So
and a good story. It just resonates, right?
Yep.
And I think if you can really strike that bone in humans, our ears perk up.
Completely. You know, and I think it's one of the most under-leveraged pieces in the business-to-business side.
Oh, yeah.
Because I feel like founders or even investors, they just take the origin story or the founder story or even the story about how they innovated or why they, have a culture or a delivery process in a certain way. I think they just take it so for granted. And we hear that a lot. Well, I mean, it's not really that interesting. Well, whoa.
Yeah. Hit the brakes.
And I do agree. I mean, we all know memory is tied to story.
Absolutely.
Resonance is tied to story, emotion, and really something being truly important and motivating is tied to story. Now, you mentioned ROI also, and I think most people would be so surprised to think about just zooming back out that a film or a piece of content really is held to an accountability standard of return on investment.
Yeah. And there's a really obvious metric there, and it's attention, right? In a good story, I can create attention, I can create demand.
Yeah.
It's that simple. Boil it down to that.
Yeah.
And every company has a story. You look at one of my favorite partners was B&H Photos, and they're just a photography sales organization. They sell photo equipment, but they have such a fantastic story of how their company came to be that it became the tip of the spear of their marketing, is who they are, how they became a store, not let me sell you a lens, let me sell you a filter. And, it is an ebb and flow, and it is a creative process to find those stories.
For sure.
But that does authentically create ROI if you can create that interest level.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think if you deploy it well, every company will have a handful of core stories that better answer the question at hand.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be deployed through sales or deployed through video or any other of the marketing metrics that we've got.
Exactly.
So, okay, well, I could get lost in this, but we did promise the audience that we are going to talk about AI, but I wanted to give you guys Sina's background because it really is so human. And this is really important because we're talking about human hearts and attention and human brains. And now we're about to play efficient, aggressive, crazy, exciting technology.
Yeah, just full sci-fi. Like,
Exactly.
where are we going with this?
Exactly. Okay, so how long have you been using AI? That's probably kind of a loaded question, but also where did you start? Because it wasn't just recently.
The Turing movie, I think it was a documentary, was fascinating to me. If you go back to the late 50s and 60s, like we've been working on AI forever.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's been, and it's weird. If you look at humans, we use wisdom to create tech, to create new, flows of thinking. If you go back to, it was Star Trek. Captain Picard's walking around with an iPad in the 1970s and 80s, right?
Yeah.
Like, that was not a new thing.
No.
Like he was walking around doing this, right?
Yeah.
And it's fascinating that when the iPad comes out, it's like, and there's more, right? There's more. Today, we are announcing the new Apple iPad. And I'm like, wait, that's on Star Trek. That's not fair.
We've been imagining this for decades.
That's not new. So, but if you think about it, like that's where sci-fi meets tech, meets future improvement, meets business, and so on.
Yeah.
So going back to the story, the Turing test, 50s, 60s, we've been working on AI as humans forever. Primarily research. Now we're getting into the 80s and 90s, early 2000s. We see Siri and we see Alexa come to be.
Yeah.
That's machine learning. Very gray area between what is artificial and what is machine learning. And as we're using these touch points and we're watching this evolve, we've all been involved in this journey. Something happens in around 2020 and GPT as a model is announced to consumers.
Yes.
It was around for like 2-3 years, but it was announced to consumers. And my immediate reaction to this was, wait a minute. We go to Google and we type, find me a pizza recipe video.
Yeah.
And in comes a list. GPT, you go, give me a pizza recipe, and it gives you the ingredients. So we're treating our wisdom as a primary source of interest, but we're using technology now to feed us our wisdom, to feed us our definition of results, not the list of results. And it's interesting because we're seeing this evolve, and we're seeing future technology become reliance to younger youth. And it's just the beaten path, right? It's what consumers are deciding are going to drive this forward.
Yeah.
And that's been my touch point so far. Again, back to the creative flow of my job, Sina's job, is how do I make myself more efficient?
Yeah.
Right. And that's where AI has truly become new.
Yeah.
It's no longer Siri feeding me directions. It's no longer Alexa taking my Amazon order. It's giving me ways to be more efficient. Now I'm interested.
Yeah.
And consumers all around the world, governance and the public and in general are going, if you're not looking at it, you should, right? That's kind of what's going on.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so what are some of this? You have such a long list. So I'm just going to
Sure.
start teasing some of the tools out to people so they can start
Yeah.
tracking. What are some of the basic tools that you use all the time, or were the ones that you found yourself adopting the most quick or the most consistently?
Okay. So how I usually do this conversation when it comes up is in every business or personal ecosystem, you don't want to be the guy in the early 2000s that shows up as a leader in a company with a printed memo talking about sending memos when email was coming out, right?
Yes.
You don't want to be that. That's how your company busts. Don't be Blockbuster,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
We are on that precipice where we decide, is this going to be a cloud level conversation where it affects everything we do? Or is this going to be something we just talk as future tech? And if you're in that position where we're looking at platforms and tech, what do we use? It's truly a matter of what do you do in your day-to-day conversation, your day-to-day ecosystem of your job or your business, and what is the today technology that affects your business? Okay, let's start there.
Yeah.
Now, after you've clearly defined, I can be more efficient by using ChatGPT, by organizing my thoughts and my schedule. I can use Midjourney for photography, for photos, and so on. I can use Sora for video. There's a wealth. Like, there's too much for me to define everything.
So many.
But you should also spend equal amount of time looking at tomorrow and the next 5 to 10 years. Again, this was released in 2020 something. Like, it is very new.
Yeah.
But it is certainly going to affect everything we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting because we had started, with the language processing a couple years before that, so before it went public, there were tools that you could pay for, and start automatically. And so we had started using that for content and copy and speeding up some of that structured written content. And then we were testing out Synthesia. It's gotten very good now.
Absolutely.
4 or 5 years ago, it was still real creepy.
Yeah.
But, we were testing so many tools even before it became. And it's interesting because, I didn't feel, but I think we were naturally bleeding edge because there was a curiosity and where can this go? And, we've got this creativity and all these different personalities on the team. And so it was just this natural agreement that, hey guys, test any tool you want. The only rule is you just have to tell the team how it's going and show us examples of what you did so we can adopt it. Now everything's being adopted and we're back at the place of clarifying what problems should we be solving, where should we be building efficiency, and more importantly, what does it look like tomorrow?
Right.
Because it was kind of a slow approach to AI adoption that we had, and we've got to get faster. But I still want to make sure that we're philosophically aligned, around when we deploy it, why we deploy it, what are the outcomes, and I don't even know what that means, but it's almost like the cultural ethics that we want to have behind it. So, sorry, I'm chasing a crazy squirrel, but
you bring up a good point. I think a lot of the conversations I have are starting negative, which is, how is this going to affect my business? With your tonality to me, when you're asking this, is I'm excited, I want to learn,
totally.
right? And your viewers likely want to.
Yes.
But there's also that side where humans in general tend to demonize technology, right? Look at electricity.
Yeah.
When it first came out, everybody thought there was demons inside.
Yeah.
And they said, don't use electricity, use candles.
Yeah.
Right? So the same thing with AI. It's this is going to take over my job. This is going to take over my industry. It's going to replace me, yada, yada. Those theories, albeit true in some fashion, you can also look at history and go, farmers, before they had ranch tools, were out in there plowing themselves. When they received the John Deere tractor, engineering jobs opened up.
Exactly.
Right? Manufacturing job opened up. Efficiency opened up. There is no world where that doesn't scale the same way. It's the same with the internet.
Completely agree.
Right? Same with the microwave. Like there's tons of examples to prove otherwise, to not demonize it and accept it. Also in advertising. Look, when you go on any social media stream for a food industry, let's take Burger King Burger King.
Yeah.
None of the ads for Burger King are real. None of them. They are fake burgers. And we all know this.
Exactly.
Right? No burger in advertising looks like the burger you get.
No.
It's the same thing with AI technology.
Exactly.
And there's efficiencies and there's use cases and there's tons of things that aren't real, can be real. Ultimately, the name of the game right now is how can I make my conversation with my career, How can I make my ecosystem more effective and efficient?
Yeah.
Start there and
Yeah.
don't get overwhelmed by the solution options.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And what I think is important and interesting too is it's different based on your role in an organization. So there's not one default. So the way I deploy AI is super different than how our designers or even how my CMOs or anybody else on the team uses it, because it's all around the efficiency and taking each person up to highest and best use.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
So where do you think marketing is heading with AI? Like, how do you think it's changing the landscape of marketing?
I think right now, today's issue is shots on target. And what I mean by that is every business owner right now is either fully adapting and evolving to the current space or stuck.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of companies that are stuck in their nuances and have a mentality that worked, which was perfectionism, which was this ideology that my product, my advertising, my every communication is absolutely perfect and not releasing it till it is. And I think that works. In a lot of situations and businesses and leadership programs, perfectionism is a good mentality to have.
I have none of it, but yes.
Same.
I've heard it works.
I've heard it works. Exactly. And I will be the first person to tell you that I'm the opposite of perfectionism.
Yeah, same.
My success and my perspective of marketing, and this is Sina, not a lot of people have different understanding of this, but is unless we get to a point where we are sufficing the need of the consumer's undescribable volume of demand of content.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I challenge everyone right now. Look at your phone. What's your screen time? Right? What's your business screen time?
Yeah.
What is the amount of time your organization is wasting on screen time? There's so much consumption of content that we can't ethically not look at shots on target. We have to just get content out. So AI does just that. It allows me to be efficient in my photo gen, in my script, in my video gen, in my strategy gen, in my prospecting. SEO is changing. SEMrush is adopting a lot of AI tools. I mean, even development of code, mid-level code and early code is essentially replaced by GPT models. And the list goes on. And again, that's today.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So not to scare you, but to align your perspective of if you're going to go and mastermind one script on one 30-second ad, good luck.
Yeah.
And it's if you try and hyper focus your team, especially if you don't have a lot of resources, good luck. It's going to be difficult because your competitor probably put out 50.
And if not today, they will.
Right.
Somebody's going to get there first.
Right. So my message so far in marketing this year, and I think to come, is shots on target. How do we get your full ABM plan, your full marketing plan, your exposure on all the platforms, your exposure to your funnels, perfecting funnels? What is the content you want your consumers to read and hear and see? And if you're not actively voluming that, then that's the first conversation that needs to be had about today and tomorrow's marketing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think a lot of people fall into that category.
I agree. And it's interesting because it's challenging some paradigms that we've held for a long time around good content is better than a lot of content. No, I still completely agree. And I actually believe AI can make things more beautiful, more appealing,
efficiency,
more. Whereas before, to your point, storyboarding a 30-second single video took forever,
Right.
Especially if you think about everybody tweaking and wanting to give their 2 cents and revisions and that it had to be perfection.
Yeah.
Completely agree. But there were times where we had to calm clients down and go, no.
Right.
You're just saying a lot of nonsense and nobody's paying attention to this. Let's get a couple core things right.
Exactly.
Test it, put it in the market and show you how much better a little bit of great works than a lot of garbage or crap, really. But it's interesting because if the world is going to continue to speed up, then you have to maintain pace. And we're running out of runway, basically, to be able to only do a little bit at a high level. And, and so it is that just the pace of change is just continuing to accelerate and it is never going to slow down. Yeah. But I like the idea of like launch early, launch often, like Seth Godin, just iterating, like get it out. Let the market tell you via data and engagement whether or not they liked it. And stop over analyzing. If you did some really great strategic thinking that now makes AI allow you to be efficient at launching the decisions you made in the strategic process.
Yeah.
Well, how cool and fun is that?
Yeah.
Just to allow the market to tell you in real time,
Yep.
like, oh, we really liked that, or that's really resonating with us. And then, that feedback loop is cool.
Yeah, I think the term that I use with business owners and entrepreneurs is, can we take a good, better, best strategy here?
Yeah.
I know you're stuck, but I know you want top of funnel interest, right?
Yeah.
Yes. You want leads? Yeah. You want new relationships? Yeah. Okay. Let's take a good, better, best, and we're going to A/B test good, right? Let's get this out. Let's get shots on target. And I promise you, the results will drive the decision, not your opinion or mine.
Exactly.
And AI is so good at this. It is so good at guiding your human wisdom into options.
Yeah.
Or vice versa, options to wisdom.
Yeah.
And I've really enjoyed that model, even down to like in Midjourney, you can give a description of a visual. I want a CMO dressed in orange in front of lights and 3 cameras, spit it out for me. And
Yeah.
boom, like that. And it'll give you visuals. Like, oh, I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you get some visual wisdom and response and feedback. That kind of, assistance was unheard of at that speed, right? That's a hired hand that you have to trust and appeal to. This is, let me pull out my phone and just type it in real quick. So that's been my touch points with AI. It's all about efficiency. And it was actually a really good, and I recommend everyone go watch it. There was a TED Talk or a podcast with Klarna CEO, and his whole vision of tech companies going forward were, look, there's a 30% churn on employees. We're going to lose 30% of our staff no matter what, and we have to replace them.
Yeah.
But instead of replacing them, we're going to use AI with the ones that want to stay and be loyal, increase their pay as they show efficiency and wisdom through their use cases of AI, and they promote AI in all of their positions.
Yeah.
There are drawbacks. There's dependency to AI. There's inefficiencies to AI. There's copyright issues with AI. There's incorrections with AI. But if you adopt it into your flow, AI can increase your ability and efficiencies. It really jumps the hurdles of perfectionism and all sorts of other solutions. And that's sort of where we are today.
Yeah.
Again, tomorrow could be a whole nother story. It could be significant.
At the Marketing Blender, we have fractional CMOs and outsourced marketing teams to drive your success. The 2 most common problems that we are approached about is, how do we break revenue plateaus and accelerate success? Or how do we attribute marketing to revenue impact? And the answer is that we build a system, because your marketing should be driving revenue, it should be driving your reputation, and it should be driving resilience. If you want to learn more, check out themarketingblender.com. Having a posture of adoption, like even if you're not using it perfectly, or even if you're not a quote unquote power user that is bleeding edge, but if you have a perspective where you invest time and you test things and you learn, then you'll be ready. You know, you don't have to be perfect at navigating change. None of us are, but at least making sure that you're staying in the game and that you're deciding ahead of time that you're not going to allow change to eat you alive, because it will. Like, it doesn't matter. Non-adoption does not stop this train from going faster and faster. So you mentioned a couple different problems it creates, and you mentioned you can build workflows around it and that type of thing, but expand on that. What are some of the problems people need to be thinking about what AI could create, and any advice around that?
In marketing in specific, my primary touch points is going to be in the visual side of things. Yeah. Strategy is pretty well concrete right now when it comes to exposing top of funnel interest and mid-level awareness campaigns and so on. The primary use cases that I suggest everyone, if you're not using it at all, is adopting a chat model of some kind. I'm not talking chat like go onto a website and do a chat bot.
Right.
I'm talking chat as in you use GPT as an assistant like you do with Google Research. Yeah. That is the core fundamental right now. Moving forward from that for creative spaces, social spaces, and so on, Midjourney, Sora, DALL-E, anything that produces visuals so that you can incorporate it into your top of funnel ad spends, PPC, and so on, will save you so much time and money. You have no idea. And it just takes that research phase. And a great analogy is if Blockbuster stopped what they were doing and researched the internet for 2 hours a week on an executive level, if they stopped what they were doing and renting DVR and researched what DVD and Netflix were planning to do for 2 hours a week, would they have changed their business model? Maybe.
Yeah.
Right? They could have seriously jumped a hurdle.
Yeah.
And the internet was bleeding edge, right? It was where we are today with AI. So I think the first thing is commit to learning what this is and how it affects your business.
Yeah.
And it could be a multitude of things. And then in the creative space for people like me who are constantly thinking about content, constantly thinking about how do I connect with more consumers or businesses?
Yeah.
Midjourney, DALL-E, GPT models, Gemini, Sora, anything that's creating and assisting in visuals has been a life changer for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. Love it. Love it. Okay. So just to give the audience perspective, do you love technology? Are you like a technophile where you're like, new tool? Or are you somebody that really had to kind of convince yourself and now it's just fluid for you?
I'm definitely the tech guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I before marketing, I was running a computer company. And we were building, desktop computers for gaming and high-end workstations and so on. And that's what led to marketing and development of film. But we were constantly looking at tech and what's like benchmarking and so on.
Yeah.
So that was definitely ingrained. My dad did the same thing. Now he's at AT&T doing big data. So it's kind of in the blood.
Yeah. Totally. Okay. Are there any questions I should have asked you that I didn't around AI?
That's a great question. I think, what's your future look like when it comes to you, Dacia, the consumer, not the professional? How do you think it'll affect you? And I'll answer as well.
Yeah, great question. So I don't naturally love technology.
Fair.
I love people.
Yeah.
And so setting up anything is frustrating to me. I am not allowed to keep that point of view anymore. This is not something I can delegate. You know what I mean? Like in the past, it'd be like, delegate setting up my computer, delegate downloading this. Like somebody learned this and then spend 15 minutes teaching me. And I'm in the midst of like a paradigm shift around carving out an hour a week at least for my own personal usage. I'm committing to using tools and exploring and trying to clarify what I need.
Sure.
I think the other thing too is really more around the encouragement of other people's usage, listening, asking smart questions, and just making sure that we adopt it and that we're doing anything that we can to influence the change. Since we can't stop it, we can't change it.
Yeah.
Be a part, like a positive part of it.
Yeah.
And so, but from a consumer standpoint, it's funny. Years ago, if you would have asked me, will I ever shop for clothes, let alone shoes? And I freaking love shoes. Like, would I ever shop for those online?
Yeah.
I didn't care how good Zappos, customer service ratings were and all the cool stories. I would have been like, you're out of your mind. Do you have any idea how much I love brick and mortar shopping where I just get to wander? And now I can't stand it.
Yeah.
Because I never find what I want.
Right.
I don't have the time.
Where are the reviews?
Yeah, exactly. And it's just a drain on my schedule.
Sure.
Even though I love shopping.
Yeah.
And so I think AI is similar where it's just automatically changing patterns of behavior that I couldn't possibly have imagined.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's now becoming a search engine.
Yep.
I'm intentionally trying to not only go there, trust but verify.
Yep.
But of course, just like everybody else, I'm finding myself leaning into that. And, I think it's just gobbling up previous tools and I don't even realize it. I'm just automatically going to these tools.
It's a fascinating paradigm shift, even for families, right? Like, let's say do you have college kids in your life? Okay. So let's say college kids comes home. Hey, mom, I'm thinking about changing my degree. I want to do coding. But you know that mid-level and entry-level coding is going to be currently replaced.
Exactly.
2025,
Yep.
currently replaced.
100%.
Where is it going next? And we know that AI models are designing the Nvidia chips that are used to manage AI.
Yeah.
So wait a minute, it's designing its own code, right?
Yes.
So does mom go back to child and say, hey, son, that's a great, ideology. what do you want to learn from it? And maybe it's a decision-making progress. Maybe it's a mark of man to get your degree, but do you influence that and say, hey, how about like leadership skills?
Oh, and absolutely.
Right? Like, so there's all sorts of like weird paradigms that we're having conversations about is because this is the first time technology is affecting wisdom.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah.
Where are we going with this? And time will tell.
Yeah, I know. I think the one holdout that's really going to be a struggle for me, and it will be so interesting to watch this video 2 or 3 years from now, is to my core, I'm a writer.
Yeah.
I cannot even be on the podcast without a pen or a pencil on the table because this is how I think.
Yeah.
And so with my book, my first book, I wrote every word and I wanted to.
Yeah.
And now I'm in the midst of writing my second, and I don't want to use ChatGPT. I don't want to speed up the process. And for me, the reason is because by doing the hard work, I literally learned things that a faster process would not have taught me. You know, where when I was putting certain things down in writing that I had only spoke out loud or had only had, ricocheting off the cranium, I thought, okay, wait, why am I thinking that? Or wait, there's a gap in this. And I would go research and then I would test, or I would see things, or like common knowledge that I went, wait, I actually disagree with that. I am not putting that in my book. What do I actually think about that? And I wouldn't have built certain components of the book and the framework without that slow process.
Yeah.
And so it's funny, I still journal almost
Humans
every night, et cetera, et cetera. So it will be so interesting for me to decide, because there's parts of things that I could delegate to AI and speed it up, and then asking, is this a part that I should be speeding up? And I think that's the hard part for me, is knowing what's being lost in my own personal journey, not, oh God, everybody be careful. But, me recognizing this is how I learn, is by writing things down and thinking it through, because my brain and my mouth go too fast and my hand goes way slower, which is a very healthy thing, where my handwriting forces me to slow down.
Yeah.
And so I think that will be the interesting side of the consumer aspect, is I want to try to be intentional around what I don't adopt, and with really clear rationale, not just, I don't want to do that, or I don't trust it,
There's certainly reason to that, because look at how weird humans are with nostalgia. How many of us would rather read a paperback than download it to our Kindle or our screen?
Me.
In fact, it's the number one competitor to Kindle is nostalgia.
100%.
Right? So, and that's totally fine. Again,
exactly.
If you do the research and see what efficiencies AI can bring to you, it'll line up correctly, I think. The other kind of nuance to this is, let's look at where it's going to, not just where it is today.
Yeah.
Here's a great example. I'm going to go home and I need to research what I want to eat today. Hey, Siri, what is a good pizza shop near me for my family? And it'll pop up the list. Okay, that's today. When AI adopts Siri and Alexa and truly dives in and ties in things like Amazon, there will be a world where you'll be able to go, hey, Siri, hey, Alexa, my wife and I are going on a trip in 2 weeks. Our fridge is empty. Please fill it up, but only give us enough food that will last for the next 2 weeks. My kids are allergic to peanuts. My dog loves protein, and my wife loves Chinese food. Give me the list. Yeah. All right, buy it and send me the receipt to my phone.
And it will already have learned that. Like, you won't have to say it.
We aren't far from that.
I believe it.
That is like a this year thing.
Yeah.
And there's a very weird reality where the nuances of our life that feels nostalgic and we like to go to the store might become consumer trend not to, right? So as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, as a creator, the eye open phase in this is very important when it comes to AI, because none of this is solidified.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the angle that I tell all my partners and business partners and so on, is there's no right or wrong answer here.
Yeah.
Right. This is a learning phase. It will be cloud level. We're not there yet.
Yeah.
And start to see where you can play.
Exactly. I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So you guys, if you liked this episode, give us a like and definitely hit subscribe. We are going to have a ton of the resources that we were chatting about in the description below. So check those out. Even more importantly, what did we miss on the list? I want to hear how you're using AI, some of the things that you wish you could have asked or what you would have added had you been on set with us. So let us hear your thoughts. And thank you guys so much. Stay human, but don't fear change. Onward and upward.